This is my hobby, the greatest hobby. Hello, everybody. The hobbyist here, and we are back with our Talisman character exploration guide. Now, last video we covered with the Reaper expansion characters. I had covered the Noble Knight and all the things that go with his character build. But now, we're going to get a little bit more aristocratic with our final entry. As the member of the city expansion's lore in regards to representing the third guild inside of the city, we have ourselves the merchant who's looking for ways to trade his way and to buy his way all the way up to the top of the crown of command. So when it comes to the actual merchant, he has 4 different character abilities. But as usual, before I get into that, because I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, let's go ahead and look over his stats. So, just looking at the merchant, he's got strength of 2, craft of 4, as well as 4 fate, 4 lives. He is a neutral character and starts in the city, which is why we have him where we do. And it makes sense that he's neutral. His character is more about whoever he can sell his objects, and wherever his money is good towards is where he's going to benefit the most. Then, like the other characters that we've covered, we have this little skull logo down here at the bottom, which means that the merchant card, any of the other cards, whether they be adventure cards, spell deck, even the Reaper cards, as well as the other Reaper expansion characters, are going to have this logo. And this is to help differentiate between this game and any of the other expansions that you might be playing. So if you don't want to necessarily play with the Reaper expansion, just look for that skull logo, and then you'll be able to separate it all a heck of a lot easier. So first, let's go into the first character ability. So you begin the game with 5 gold. So already, straight out the gate, you are already put at a pretty high advantage when it comes to being able to buy objects. Because if you're just thinking in the base game, you can already buy a set of armor or a weapon inside of the village. But if you want to extend even further, think big picture, you want to go to the city expansion, right out of the gate you can buy the flail, because the flail costs you 5 gold in order to purchase. Or, because as you saw that the merchant is a bit higher on the craft side, you could use the magic emporium and find any of those items to be very useful. So being able to start with 5 gold is a huge boost, and only one other character in the entirety of all the Talisman expansions possesses 5 gold right out the get-go. But I'll get into him a bit later on. So the second character ability in which the 5 gold can play a role into is that you may evade enemy dragons and monsters by paying 1 gold, or discarding the gold. Essentially, well, camera went out of focus. Essentially, this means that it indicates that the dragon expansion, as long as the merchant has gold, he is able to evade dragons that might be coming up because of the different draconic lords. And we talked about how the dangers is going to always shift because the draconic lords, and who the dragon king's going to be is going to shift. But as long as you have gold and you're able to pay off the dragons and meet their needs, and then you can do the same with monsters. Now when it comes to monsters and dragons, because I haven't mentioned this before, and these are simply enemy classification types. So enemies are always going to have not just the enemy, but it's always going to have a classification of whether it's an animal, a monster, a spirit, an elemental, a cultist, a whole bunch of different things, which not only help specify where the character specializes in, whether it's taming or being able to evade, but it also helps with the wanted posters like we mentioned in our city expansion tutorial. But now, let's move on to this third character ability. You may trade with a character that you land on by exchanging any one object of yours for one of theirs. And this includes magic objects. So essentially, this means that sorry guys, I'm having a lot of camera trouble here, so you'll just have to bear with me a little bit. But as I was saying with this third character ability, the ability to land on other players and trade has its own benefits within itself. So maybe you've been having a very hard time when it comes to finding the right objects and the right object combinations that benefit you. You get stuck with a lot of cursed items that have been doing you very poorly, whether it be inside of the Reaper expansion itself, or you want to extend to the Harbinger expansion. When you've been pulling Harbinger cards and you're getting all those cursed weapons, then you can use those objects because it doesn't specify that they have to be cursed objects, or it has to be specified towards anything in specific. So you could be able to trade away those cursed objects to other players that you land on and have them suffer the consequences, which in turn you can take those objects for yourselves, either for your own use or for further on when we get into this last character ability, because this is where the merchant can start to accumulate wealth. And the faster that you can accumulate wealth, again, like with the city expansion, the far greater of a chance that you are at succeeding and being able to defend yourself and have all the items and stat boosts that you need in order to prepare yourself for any of the other corners that you might decide to explore, or any of the alternate ending conditions that you have to meet. And that character ability is, when you visit the village, market, or market day, you may also discard one of your own objects to take any one object from the purchase deck. You may also sell any of your objects for 1 gold each, and magic objects for 3 gold each. So, with the village on the opposite corner that's off camera, this essentially means that you're going to have a lot of free reign when it comes to being able to get things, much similar in regards to the thief. Whereas the thief can pickpocket, you can trade away stuff that you don't want, which is definitely a plus. And also being able to sell any of those unwanted objects, or maybe you want to go a little bit more on the prevention side of things. Because a lot of times with the merchant, there's going to be a lot of characters who are stronger than you. And if those characters that are stronger than you are beating you up and taking your objects, well, they could also be gaining a lot of good combinations because you've just been trading all game. So, what if you prevent any players from trying to take those objects from you by selling them off to the village and being able to get 1 gold, or if it's a good magic object, you can get 3 gold out of it. And the more stuff that you collect, the more stock you have as the merchant, as I'll put it, that you can accumulate gold, accumulate more resources, accumulate more ways to evade monsters and dragons. It all meshes and comes together. So overall, do I think the merchant's a good character? He's a fantastic character if the city expansion is an expansion that you're choosing to play with, because of his ability to sell objects, and because he starts with 5 gold out of the gate, and because all of his abilities are encompassed by gold, in the way that gold functions with different purposes, then you are able to easily excel inside the city expansion, being able to pay for the different shops or find the different strangers and services that gold might require of you. But on the same side of the coin, no pun intended, the character relies on gold, meaning that it becomes very easy to become powerless if you have no money to influence the things around you. So if you spend up all your gold on the monsters that you're trying to evade, on the various shops, whether you be buying from the village or whether you're buying from the city expansion, if you spend all that money too quick, then you don't really have any defenses for yourself. You might have a higher craft, but overall you're not going to have much of an advantage when it comes to being able to progress in that regard. So that's definitely something to look out for. And because he's a higher craft character, in that the evade with money only works on monsters and dragons. Who's to say things like animals or spirits or cultists or even constructs, another enemy type that's inside of the expansions, won't come after you because you are still exposed in that regard. So that is definitely some of the caveats that the merchant has. But hopefully, with this being the last character inside of the Reaper expansion, you found that the merchant might be a character that either will or won't play in your favor. Because, let's face it, with the way that he works, money really does make the world go around with the merchant. I'll see you guys in the next one.